Good morning, everybody. The new is only 8:15, but they clock it wrong, as you well know. The clock is not sprung forward, so we're about ready to get started. Before we get the meeting started, I'll make a couple of announcements. First of all, my name is William Childress, to the visitors and to the new board members. I am the executive director of the Dealer Board, and as such, too strong. Anyway, some quick notes. Restrooms are out the door to the left, down the hall, and another left, go to the restrooms. And also I ask that you all silence your telephones or place them on vibrate at this point. So strong to be. Okay, for those who may be listening online, we express some technical difficulties, so it may be hard to hear us. So we'll do the best we can to speak up to prepare the conversation. But this is a situation where we're part of the next week. Piece of our equipment is failing, something we can do to correct it. Before we get started, as you can see, we have some new faces in the room. Right now, we have 4 new faces to be exact. We have Miss Melissa Dunn, we have Miss Alexis Barker Taplin, Mr. Chip Lindsay, and Mr. Timothy Hanker. They all have been as recent appointees to the board. And during the board portion of the meeting today, they were always trying to talk about themselves a little bit. Which is the board members convention yourself with this. The official board. I think we have a visitor here today. One visitor at least. So the process is a pretty simple process for those who've been a part of it, but for you coming in, that's a little weird. But the first part of the meeting this morning will be for committees. Committees will meet. Your case will come before one of the 4 committees. Okay, once the committees meet, the committees will have the responsibility to review the case and then to pass a recommendation on to the board, which should be the latter meeting. Okay, at that point, but during the committee meeting, you have the opportunity to come to the podium and answer questions and state your case. Okay, so you have the opportunity to do that. But once the committee votes, whether they vote for you or against you, it is not done at that time. That's just a committee recommendation. So stay around because you'll have another opportunity later to speak before the board. And once the board makes their decision, at that point, you're free to leave if you want to. But you'll get the decision again. So be patient and we'll respect. Thank you. Appreciate it. For information for you, sir, we have 4 committee meetings. First one's to deal with practices. Second one is licensing. Third one is advertising. Fourth one is transaction code. And we normally done around somewhere between 9:40 and 10:15 as far as board meetings. And board meetings are about 15 minutes after that. So it should move pretty quick. Okay, I think that's it for the most part. So with that said, I want to go ahead and now turn off the list of turn over to Mr. Dan Baxter, who is now the chairperson of the General Pricing Committee and the vice chair, one is 2 vice chairs, Mr. Baxter. So I'll be
welcome. I'd like to call, actually, I guess I'm supposed to say that first. I'd like to call the Dealer Practice Committee to order. Alice, we have our roll call.
Dan Bannister.
Here.
Andrew Fowley.
Here.
Alexis Barker Taplin. Here. Melissa Dunn. Here. Chip Lindsay.
Here.
David Lynn.
Here.
Chris Mayer.
Here.
Temple Hanko.
Here.
Don Sullivan. R.J. Robinson. Nick Rush.
Well, that's almost everybody here. On the committee. All right. As Mr. Childress said, if you're here and you're on the agenda, you have an opportunity to speak. And your topic, the comments will be limited to the topics on the agenda. And also after this, we encourage you to stay after if you in front of the full board. Looking for approval of the January 24 media summary. So I think I need to take down the book. Okay. All right. Here and there's no objections to that. I'm going to accept the media summary. Is there any old business? Any old business from the floor? And new business, Mr. Childress, tab 1. Tab 1.
Cars Lots Incorporated and Blondie B. Garamond. This is tab 1 in your books, board member. On January 23rd, 2024, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1533, and 46.2-1575, number 2. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended assessing a civil penalty of $1,000 and a satisfactory inspection.
Okay, for the new board members, this is an opportunity for us to discuss, the case. Hopefully you all had an opportunity to review it and had any feedback. This is something that we've, dealt with many times, the failure to maintain posted business hours. It's very, very common, and it's unfortunately something that we have to deal with, pretty consistently almost every meeting that we have. So, does anybody have any comments on the? Oh, I'm saying, is there anybody here from Car Lots and Blondie Berman? No. There are none. Does anybody have any comments? Or would like to make a motion? Sir, I'll make a motion to accept the hearing officer's recommendation. The second? I'll second it. All right. Yeah. Any any discussion?
I think the offer is kind of generous, really, because I understand it's a story guy had COVID, and then the phones didn't work, and the email didn't work, and all that other jazz. But this is somebody that was fined once before already for this, 3 or 4 years ago. So they knew when they got sick that they should have emailed in. He was out for months, and it wasn't just like closed for a couple of days. He was out for months. So.
And as you stated, that this is a reoccurring offense. There's a lot of history with this particular deal. So
I think we got his attention, he's on the radar.
Yeah.
So I think he's gonna get his due, whichever it is. The other reps, their job.
and for the new board members, we always encourage those that being fined or to come and speak before us, and we really try to respect the people's time and show them, if they come from the board, we make sure we come to the leniency, but this person decided that he's going to come and probably just pay the fine if they've done the past. So, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Tab 2, Mr. Children.
Tab 2, New Classic Cars LLC and Devin V. Weisler. On February 20th, 2024, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1529.1, 46.2-1539, and 46.2-1575, number 2. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended in written warning for 46.2-1575-2 a civil penalty of $500, a satisfactory inspection within 90 days, and successful completion of a 2-day dealer operator course.
Is anybody here from Neo Classic Cars? No? All right. Anybody have a motion?
I move that we accept the hearing officer's recommendation.
Is there a second? Open for discussion? Alex, you got a second? Yeah, I mean, this is another one, failure to maintain, dealer records. Obviously, we all know that we have to maintain our records and a few of the other safety inspection things. So, I mean, again, they didn't show up, and they have a slew of, stuff on their record also, so.
Seems like,
Go ahead.
it seems like they got off pretty easy.
Yeah.
Hearing officer must have been impressed with them, so I'll just defer to them.
All right. So all in favor, or say aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. The Childress.
Tab 3, Ola Motors LLC in Olathe, Hawaii. On February 22nd, 2024, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1533 and 46.2-1575, number 2. Based on information provided at the conference, The hearing officer recommended assessing a civil penalty of $1,500, a satisfactory inspection within 90 days, and successful completion of a 2-day dealer operator course.
Man, looking at this, have they successfully completed, dealer operators course? I mean, they failed at almost everything. Chris, have you
Their
know,
last new operating class was 2021. That, at a bare minimum, that was probably the first 1 or 2 classes that I taught, the recommendation to bring it back to the last things as well.
yes, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the hearing officer's recommendation.
Is there a second? And any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Carry. What's up with this? All right, got 4, 5. Okay.
Carleen LLC and Derek Washington, tab 4. On February the 6th, 2024, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1537, 46.2-1539, 46.2-1542B, 46.2-1548, 46.2-1550, number 1, and 46.2-1550, number 2. Based on information provided at the conference, the hearing also recommended assessing a civil penalty of $900. Because the dealer has vacated his premises and is non-responsive, the hearing also recommended revocation of all licenses.
I think this was, pretty easy. Have a motion on the floor. Wait,
Before we make the motion, I have an issue with the fine only being $100.
I do too.
We as a board decided a long time ago that if there was an issue with temp tags or transport tags, it's gonna be $50 per. thing. So I'll go, and for people that are new to the board, thankfully, the last several meetings, we haven't had one of these temp tag issues, but last year, it seemed like every meeting, there was a dealer coming before the board that had been printing temp tags and no records, selling them on Facebook, all kinds of issues with these, and the board decided that we were gonna be hardcore about that and make sure that we treated it as serious an issue as it was. So if they're saying that there's 300 missing records for temp tags, print on demand temp tags, the fine should be $15,000, not $900.
I also want to respond to that. There's 2 situations that could be happening here. We don't know which one it is. The dealer either on going out of business or on their way out the door, they couldn't pay for title, so they started to issue temp tags to customers. They sold cars to stop the heat. That's one thing, but still warrants $50 a sell. The other situation is people selling temp tags to people that are not their customers online to whoever. Somebody can't get a driver's license, can't get a car. So I back way, I back Andrew up 100% on that. I think they'll charge $15,000. We'll bring sets of temp tags.
do we know why the only, $900 fine?
I can only guess that the hearing officer, knowing he's probably out of business, is still aware. But what we do also for the board's information is we need to put the hearing officer twice a year to discuss matters like this. So maybe something we'll talk. That's what I'm saying.
This looks like somebody that probably shouldn't be in business, and that's their point. If they want to get back in business, it costs them.
Exactly.
At $15,000.
Will this follow the individual or all the individual?
I've been reading a lot in the last week and a half. So if I'm not mistaken, isn't this the same person that tags were assessed with another dealership? That dealership wasn't allowed to do temporary tags for whatever reason. Obviously, they were doing something they shouldn't have been doing. So these two, it seems like almost in cahoots that, hey, I can't do it, but you can, so I'll do it for you. So there was planning in this. It's not just like an off the cuff thing. Oh, okay, well, I'll do this. And this to me is really serious for the dealer.
It says both, it says number 1, they issue multiple sets for consumers they sold cars to, and they issued them to consumers of another
Dealership.
that bought their ability.
Right.
So either way, they've committed to complying with this. I think.
And it wasn't just a 1 or 2 time thing, that oops, I've made a mistake. No, this is.
For the new board members, and to remind the board members who've been here, what you need to realize, keep in the back of your mind is that when a dealer or a salesperson loses their license or goes out of business, and we assess them a civil penalty, they can come back later and get a new license as long as they met the civil penalty requirement. So I guess like Mr. Bassel said earlier, the $900 is something that if he loses his license, he can come back 6 months from now, apply for a new license, pay $900 fee back in business. So the 15,000 that's been suggested is a deterrent. Anyway, it makes it hard to get back into the business. And we're doing some research now to see if there is a statutory limitation of time period for those who have been revoked. I don't see one now. We're looking for that. If not, there might be a policy coming from the board to decide how we want to have that.
The other thing is that the commissioner's not here, but Melissa, when there's a, like, criminal activity, the board doesn't have any purview over criminal activity, but the Department of Motor Vehicles does. And they would normally, if it's been referred to them that there's criminal activity, they'll handle that on their end. We don't have the purview
Right.
over.
Well, we have a mix.
Right, correct. Yeah.
That to me is a very big phone.
So, a motion,
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept the hearing officer's recommendation, except that we change the fine to $15,000 for 1550.1 and 1550.2.
okay, so Mr. Wiley's made a motion that, we accept the hearing officer's recommendation, but increase the fine to $15,000. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, that concludes the dealer practice, committee, and next meeting is March 11th. 2020. Oh, May. I'm sorry. May 3rd. He's next. Okay. We're in March right now. Who's licensed? Yes, guys, I guess. Whatever.
Like wearing your horns, Jeff.
All right, the licensing committee will come to order. Alice, will you, on roll?
Sure. Maurice Slaughter, Jeff Ballard.
Here.
Alexis Walker Caplan, and Tom Bates.
Here.
Trevor Colvin.
Here.
Michael Board. Melissa Dunn. Here. David Penny Selmer. David Lynn.
Here.
Michael Nika.
Here.
RJ Robinson. Yes.
All right, just want to let anybody know, maybe in the audience, if, you have the, right to, speak at the agenda, have the opportunity. On your item, please, all right, we want to approve the January 2024 meeting, right? There's no objections? That meeting is approved. Is there any old business? The old business from the floor? Any new business? All right, so we want to do tab 5?
Thank you, sir. Samuel H. DuPont, sales applicant, tab 5. On February 26, 2024, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Section 46.2-1575, number 13. Based on information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended granting Mr. DuPont a salesperson's license.
Is there anybody here to speak on this agenda?
I'm Samuel H. DuPont.
Go on up to the podium and state your name and you make a statement.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Samuel DuPont. I'm coming in front of you guys today in hopes of receiving my dealer's license, or excuse me, my salesman license for Virginia. I currently work at Camping World, Virginia, in the service department and am looking to move forward in my life and go into the sales department and try to have a fresh start. And unfortunately, I did have some issues in my past, and I've luckily gotten through them and have a very strong support system behind me, being able to be 100% that will kick my tail if I fall back down. And I don't want to let anyone. And I'd love to be able to have this opportunity, and I hope to be accepted to get my license.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. DuPont? The hearing officer did recommend granting Mr. DuPont his sales license. Anybody, what was the felony for?
My felonies were for, the first felony was a charge of a threat to do bodily harm or kill. And my second felony was a personal possession of marijuana.
How long have they been with you?
This was, I was sentenced on December 8th of 2022. So this happened I was incarcerated on June 22nd of 2022.
You're presently on probation.
Yes, sir, I am. Sorry.
3 years.
They recommended up to 5 years. My probation officer, when I was on in-person probation, they actually asked the Henrico County courts to release me. They asked that I be kept on probation for 1 year and then released. So I'm up for reassessment on release on April 9th this year.
Says no probation. Order provided.
The probation order, I got the only order I was able to receive to turn over to the board was the order for conviction order that I was given, which did state my probation in that.
10 years, 12 months.
That was the sentencing, yes, sir.
What type of recovery program were you involved in?
When I was incarcerated in Henrico County Jail, I was in the RISE program, which was the Recovery in a Secure Environment. I completed the first 2 phases of that, and I was on the way to finishing the 3rd phase when I was released. Each phase is a 6-week program. Every day, Monday through Sunday, there is programming that has to do with either Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, as well as anger management courses, as well as career building and how to be a productive citizen when you are released from the jail.
You currently do meetings and you have a sponsor or link.
I currently am in a Narcotics Anonymous meeting on Tuesdays. I go to the meeting that is at the Henrico Behavioral Health on Woodman Road on Tuesdays. I do not have a sponsor at this time. My sponsor is no longer the program that I had. He moved out of the area, so I don't have a sponsor at this exact moment.
Are you willing to obtain a sponsor as part of the getting a license?
Most definitely.
What are you currently doing, sir?
I currently run a tractor civil logboard.
The detective order. Were you arrested because of a violation of that, or was that just included in all of this?
That was the office.
I was just gonna say one thing. We're gonna abstain from voting on this, same does work for us. However, there was a recommendation, so bring next ops director, it's filed. Sam has been nothing but a good employee for us, comes to work and no issues, so just make that rule.
Yeah, they asked for sponsor. What is your sports program at home?
So I currently do not actually have a support program at home due to the fact that unfortunately I'm adopted from birth. My adoptive mother unfortunately is in the grips of, addiction right now, between pain medication and alcohol. So I have removed myself from that situation and have moved in with one of my best friends, who he and his family, they don't tolerate anything like that. They were one of the biggest support systems while I was in jail, as well as my best friend's stepfather actually works with us at Camping World, and so does my best friend. So they keep a very close eye on me at all times and ensure that I'm not slipping back into anything that could ever cause me to have any issues. Watch out. Issues from program. At this time, I don't know any system that they have, but I would be definitely willing to look into it.
The only thing that I can tell you is he works at Trevor's place, and obviously Trevor's gonna be monitoring if there's an issue there. And we said when people are released, they're back into society, they've been at the store, and they wanna work, as long as the dealer operators monitor everything they're doing, they're willing to notify them of the issue. We usually control them, as long as it wasn't cutting cars in half and selling parts on the thing. I think based on the testimony here from this gentleman, which my opinion is, that we've got to grant a license, don't get a work, pay back for it. I agree, Seth. I'm just saying, have something in place. It's like getting a traffic ticket or a cop that's wrong. If there's not something to watch out on probation, some nature, to watch out for him as a human first, and then the company and you and your liability, it's probably a healthy idea to have something in place that you could install. But if anybody gets into a trouble again, and then it comes back to you, that's too late. The damage is done. Right. I will say that we do have ways for free. I agree. So I'll make. Oh, I'll just sit back and keep my mouth shut. Oh, well, this is it. Need a second. Also. Tim will make it second.
All right, all in favor?
Chris wanted to make a motion.
Thank you, that's all I can, for the records, I'll get all the those.
Oh, I'm sorry, all about it.
I'll vote.
Anybody opposed?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tab six.
Okay, tab six. Tab six is Casey Strauss-Snyder, salesperson and dealer operator, BK Motors. Historical overview leading up to the formal hearing. On July 17th, 2023, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1575, number 8, 9, and 13. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended revocation of all licenses and certificates. On September the 11th, 2023, the board reviewed and considered the facts and evidence of the report of the informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning Casey Strauss-Snyder for alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1575, number 8, 9, and 13. And based on due consideration, the board voted to revoke all licenses and qualifications issued by the board to Casey Strauss-Snyder. Casey Strauss-Snyder appealed for a formal hearing on October the 11th, 2023. On December 19th, 2023, A formal hearing was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 4612 1575, number 8, 9, and 13. Based on information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended assessing a civil penalty of $2,250, revocation of dealer operator's qualification, and suspension of salesperson's license for a minimum of 1 year, and satisfaction of financial obligations owed.
I, before we do any discussion, the board received an email from Ms. Straussmeyer this morning. She's apologizing that she was unable to attend because she had an issue with childcare. Did not, I guess, find somebody to watch her child, so she was requesting, that we put this off to the next meeting. So, do we want to entertain that?
Got 14 criminal convictions. Well, I'm not on this committee, but I'm very familiar with the case. Last time we voted, it was very close. Ms. Rose Snyder did have 14 charges related to one wholesaler that she bought cards from. She got behind on payments. They were able to convict her of those charges. I would suggest, just because she's on probation, she runs a little small gas station sized dealership with her husband and her family. And this is her only source of income to pay those people back. She's paid back. The initial amount was over $200,000. She owes $114,000 right now. She paid back a substantial portion of that to this wholesaler. If we take her license away, she's never done anything else to sell them. So I would suggest we at least hear her out, let her come back and listen to us before we wipe her license out.
I don't think it was just one wholesaler. There was one wholesaler called Dave's Wholesale, and there was a Jessica Gift. I don't know what, how she was involved, but she wrote her bad checks. It owes her $4,200 roughly. Then there was a bank also.
And I think it was all related to the floor plan, something like that. So it would just be my recommendation. I'm not on the committee, I'll be on the full board. But we at least listen to what she has to say. I don't think she's the current bad register currently paying back what she owes.
Is she presently still in business?
She is, so everybody will know.
She's not
You
the
stay
owner.
in business until,
Right, she's not
Everything's
the, she's not the owner. She's an employee. Her husband is on.
Same thing. I think that's his recommendation. It's, fine. If she gets here next time. I would agree.
well, so do you want to make a motion to extend it to,
I think the motion to give her another shot. Has to be a mandate, she has to be here. Or let us know.
one more time?
I think that's wise.
One more time.
Yes.
Get into a May the 13th.
That's who wants to see on.
Correspondence.
Okay. Everybody understand the motion? Second. All in favor? All opposed? That's the only ones we have, right?
Guys, what you want, please.
Well, you need to know, next week, we're not really close that well.
So what now?
Announce the next meeting.
Oh, the next meeting will be May 13th, 2024.
This is how we get used to.
About the break.
Yeah, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Alice, could you call the roll, please?
R.J. Robinson, Don Sullivan, Jeff Ballard.
Here.
Tom Bates.
Here.
Michael Boyd. Trevor Coleman.
Here.
Jimmy Selman. Chip Lindsey.
Here.
David Lynn.
Here.
Sam Von Henke.
Here.
Nick Rush.
Moving forward. There are no agenda items, so your public comment, is there any public comment? No public comment. I move that we approve January 8th, 2024 meeting summary unless there's any objections. Hearing none, we'll move forward to old business. Is there any old business from the floor? New business, there is no new business, scheduled the May 13th, meeting summary. With that, we adjourn. Okay, and also I'd like to call the transaction covered fund meeting to order. We can call the roll, please.
Chris Mayer,
Here.
Tom Bates,
Here.
Jeff Ballard.
Here.
Dan Bannister.
Here.
Melissa Dunn.
Here.
Trevor Coley.
Here.
Chip Lindsey. Nick Rush. Maurice Slaughter. Tom Sullivan. Andrew Wise.
Here. We have, quorum. Public comments, during will be limited to the topics that are listed on the agenda. I move that we approve the January meeting summary. If there's no objections, that is approved. Is there any old business from the floor? New business, we have, one case here to look at. It's under 10-7.
Yes. Tab 7, Christopher and Deborah Connolly versus Carl Legends and Narula Abasi. On December 29th, 2023, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Section 46.2-1527.3 against Carl Legends and Narula Abasi. Based on information provided at the conference, the hearing also recommended payment to Christopher and Deborah Connolly in the amount of $25,000 from the recovery fund.
Casey, you've heard the case. This is a classic case. I teach this in the classes. If somebody sold the vehicle, they had a small problem, and didn't settle their problem, it became a big problem. Their problem, the car. Consumer wanted to fix it, they declined to fix it. It turned an $1,100 problem into a multiple $1,000 problem. So there's a claim right now for $25,000. Any discussion? What is the claim for? What's the substance of the majority of the claim is for terms?
Yeah. I thought that part about it. Yeah. I think it was fair.
We're gonna have, Joe just have that transaction. Out of this. Part of it. What should be, maybe part of it should be, how much is the price?
When you go to
This is probably heard about it. That's not relevant.
and that, how different you can.
We'll talk about it. Yeah. So at this point here, we have a claim of $25,000 for motions. Verified claim. Before 30 days.
Couple of new board members and remind those existing board members, the recovery fund process involves going to court and getting the judgment. We cannot go behind that judgment and look at it around like, if this is nothing the court saying that that's what you have to pay, we don't pay.
Can we adjust the one?
It's the AG, you can speak up on the.
I guess I'd have to know, how do you, I mean, well, without having to get into.
Well, I mean, the only people getting the chair are the attorneys. And I mean, if it were me, I would adjust it and give the gentleman his money back on the air conditioner repair, the three attorneys.
So a few things. One is the code specifically under 46.215, 27.3, right? Paragraph 3, attorney fees are, it's in the statute, attorney fees are allowed to be collected where the board can the attorney has to submit an itemized bill. It submits the itemized bill to the court and the judge approves the bill. Then we have to approve it because it's part of the judgment. If he does not, or she fails to submit it to the court, but submits it to the board as they're required to in their claim, at that point, then the board can analyze the bill because the judge didn't analyze the bill. And so in this case, my understanding that the attorney did submit it as part of his action, and it was approved by the court. So Mr. Childers is correct. We can't go behind the judgment because it's been awarded in the judgment. I'll just point out in this case, I understand this has been, I've been on this board as an attorney for the board for 10 years now. My predecessor has been was on the board since the inception of the board. And I think my first board meeting, this was a hot topic of attorney's fees from the And it's always, it comes up occasionally it's not, just as an attorney to explain this situation, you can have a claim that's for $1,500 and the attorney has to jump through several hoops. I mean, in this case, we don't see this a lot, and as I think other people can acknowledge this, there's an attorney for the dealer in this case. A lot of times there's a default judgment and the attorney only has to put in a few hours to do the work and get the default judgment. In this case, this dealer has an attorney, which he's entitled to, fights the case, goes to arbitration, goes to 4, 5, or 6, or 10 court cases. So the bill gets racked up because the attorney's producing time to work out a case because it's not a lot. We've seen cases where there's attorney fees of $4,000 on an $80,000 claim because the dealer didn't show up or it was a very straightforward case. So that also should be considered just from the standpoint of the fact that it doesn't mean that you guys are judging the attorney's fees, but there is maybe some other things going on within the case that, we're not just on the face of it, yes, it was a shocking number. But we've seen shocking much higher. We've seen attorney's fees of $80,000, $90,000.
So 1,400.
Because I know, but I'll just point out to Chris's point is that this was dragged out for a long period of time. And
I mean, I understand.
I'm not defending anyone. I'm just trying to enlighten the board that cases in court could go haywire and go left and right.
You're gonna have to make sure you understand this non-card.
No,
This person had the opportunity to solve the problem.
I know all that. I mean, I know all that. I'm in there, done that.
And then they dragged the attorney's nose through the ringer. So the attorney said, okay, no problem at all, we'll go along. So this attorney obviously came up with this many justified it from the court. I'm not pro attorney, trust me.
My son's an attorney.
Okay.
I know all that.
I do know this attorney. I do know that this attorney typically wants to get paid quickly and get out. So if you make an offer, they didn't make an offer to get this thing away. They should have negotiated for an offer.
So I'm not going to dispute any.
No, it's not something.
Well, you can't adjust it.
Well, we can not agree to a claim and minimize the claim, I believe. But the customer should be made whole, period.
Absolutely.
And then after
He
that,
can get his money plus court fee.
what room do we have to?
Here's the problem. If I don't get too far off track. If we start to minimize attorneys fees, attorneys will not take consumer cases, consumers will get a fair representation. The only thing the car dealers have to be in fear of to settle issues like this is the attorneys. If we take away the ability for them to get paid, they're not gonna take these cases.
Well, but the consumers still have the right to pay people for it and represent themselves.
Most of them don't.
I understand.
And history's on the wrong side of that statement. History is not that the attorneys.
I can tell you, my 10-year-old board here, claims against transaction recovery on this all the time. And people are settling their cases with attorneys and with consumers much faster than that would be our goal. I think to keep the cases away from us, settle their own business, deal with their own problems. And I think that's happening based on my experience. William, are you seeing that downturn in claims against transaction recovery fund? I'm on board. So I'm getting notified about a lot. Right, they're getting settled and people are handling their own business, which most of us around the table here would do. We would handle our own business, make it go away. In this case here, they didn't. So now they're gonna have to pay the pipe.
And again, for the board's information, when the recovery fund is paid out, when we pay out the recovery fund, we go back against the dealer. So if he or she is out of business, that's against them. If they're still in business, give them a period of time to pay it to us. They don't pay it to us and we put them to still in license.
Is this dealer out of business?
I think so.
Yes.
No, he's not.
He's not?
He's fine.
Okay.
I mean, it's suspension or revocation until repayment.
How long, that's not like me, how long do they have for repayment?
30 days, basically. Like,
Yeah, we give them 30 days to notice the payment for payment. Payment. Satisfied, pay us back. That's basically else.
Is there one option?
This is a classic example we use in front of new deal, settle your problem. $1,100 problem, came out with a final number, this is pretty high. Yeah.
It's 35.
35,000. settle your problems, you don't have to pay $35,000. I think the system's working, just so you guys know, I think the system's working, it's working well, and, they should have settled their problems.
I make a motion to accept the hearing officer's recommendation. Pay the claim.
Andrew Wiley makes a motion to accept the hearing officer's recommendation for a second. Second by Trevor Foley, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, is there any new business from the floor? Hearing none, we do have a meeting after the, transaction recovery fund meeting, I'm sorry, after the final board meeting today, and you'll talk about that in a few minutes, right? No, who's gonna be on that meeting, the transaction recovery fund committee, so if you're on the transaction recovery fund committee, you have to stay up the full board. We promise to keep that now. Next, we'll schedule the May 13th transaction recovery fund meeting 2024. And with that said, we'll adjourn.
Okay, the next part of the meeting will be the, full board meeting. So let's be back in place at 5 minutes after the hour. So see if I can find you.
Like he's walking up the road.
If I can call the motor vehicle dealer board, Alice, would you like to read the roll for it, please?
Jeff Ballard.
Here.
Dan Bannister. Alexis Parker Tackler. Here. Tom Bates.
Here.
Michael Moore. Trevor Foley.
Here.
Melissa Dunn.
Here.
Tim Selmer. Chip Lindsey. David Lynn.
Here.
Chris Mayer.
Here.
Tim Pawhugo.
Here.
O.J. Robinson. Nick Rush. Mary Slaughter. Don Sullivan. Andrew Wiley.
Here.
Earl Black.
Here. All right, I'm going to, ask us to approve the, January 8th meeting summary. Any objections to that? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Before I open the public comment period, I know we have a couple of new board members here, and I haven't had a chance to introduce myself, and was hoping, I know you guys did a few introductions this morning, but a couple of meetings I was dealing with, so I skipped the subcommittees. But maybe we can go around and do a little bit of personal introduction. I'll start. So Gerald Lankey, about a year in the role, actually March 14th will mark the official 1 year where I sat in the seat. Somewhat new people looking back at me, but I don't have public sector experience. I didn't have any Virginia experience, and I had no D&B experience. So what I was bringing to the table and have for the better part of 20 years, my professional career is transforming organizations. So I got a doctorate in psychology for that, business consulting, which took me all over the world. I spent a year in India setting up offshoring centers. I spent a year in Saudi Arabia and Oman, looking for oil and gas operations. And here in mostly the United Kingdom and Copenhagen, dealing with economic dysfunctions in the state of Ghana. Then came back stateside and did all of that around the country. So worked in roofing after that. And because I had a client in mind that was a good friend, he said, I need somebody to come lead our product development transformation. Anyone know GAF? Yeah. I'm a proud GAF man, and you know, they revolutionized the industry with the land chamber, but they have not done it in about 40 years. If you want to go back to some things I was saying the last 5 years, but go read Popular Science, GAF, and you see all the stuff that we put out. I don't obviously single handedly take credit for any of that, but I'm not an engineer. But I created the environment for that product. And that's really what I do and what I was passionate about. So that brought me down here, kind of coincidentally. And I have a great team behind me, a
love what I do. This is so far the highlight of my career. I mean, I'm 43 and I'm leading a $4 billion agency. That's pretty cool to be honest. And, it's a lot of work, but I enjoy it. And so one of the, just to let you know, I wear really three hats. The commissioner of the DMV is one that deals with, really two parts of our mission, which is serving the Motor Republic and securing identities. I am also the governor's highway safety representative, so that's an appointed position typically held by a DMV commissioner responsible for all of the safety, federal highway safety money as well as state money that goes around to different agencies, and we collaborate with DOT on infrastructure improvements, state police enforcement, and all the localities. That's our third part of our mission, which is state park funds. And the last part of our mission is also comes, my predecessor set up with William the notion of motor vehicle dealer board, following examples in other states where it's a semi-autonomous board. I sit as the chair of that. So that is our fourth part of supporting part of it. And a lot of what I do when I'm here, you guys are really the decision makers. You're the experts in the industry. You know when these cases are coming up exactly, you know, what the real issues are. So it's, you know, I find my role interesting and somewhat ceremonial on this board. William and I collaborate on the operations with the motor vehicle dealer board with a lot of independent between the two agencies. I think once in a while I'll get interested in the case like I did last time and I'll start digging into it, but largely we'll work together and I'll look forward to doing this. The other thing I do is I do deal between on the dealer side, new dispute between manufacturers. I got one on my desk right now. That's new as well for me. Those don't come up as often, but when they do come up, they're usually interesting. So I'd say a role there. I work with either the APA, the IAA, and William. Any questions for me? Awesome. Maybe I can just ask us to go around here. I'd love to meet you all real quick and hear a few about you.
I'm Tim Micah. This is my first meeting. Thank you all for involved with that. What generation car dealer?
Jeff Ballard, I'm an independent dealer out of Boston, Virginia. I've been in business 22 years. David Mann, independent dealer, Richmond, Virginia.
Melissa Dunn, independent dealer, Don't Nordic, Virginia.
I've not been there yet.
Northern neighborhood, great place, great place.
Tom Bates with Arcade Chevrolet, Subaru, and Texas Motor Company. My son's now taking over the dealership with my daughter. Started with Irving Klein 100 years ago, Bob Klein, me and Bob Klein. Bob Klein's my son's godfather, so it's a family.
Chris Mayer, Winchester, Virginia, almost 30 years in business. I think I'm the oldest active sitting person on the regular board that's here that's been on the board, so I've seen almost everything happen. Glad to be here and serve along next to you guys here. I'm family-owned business. I have 7 children, 3 of them.
As Chris mentioned, this is designed and runs the training program.
Oh,
It usually comes up a couple times.
yeah, 3.5 years, now, the DIADA has the agreement to develop. And if you want to become a car dealer in Virginia and then become a car dealer, it comes to the class that we offer. And it's been good to say the least. We get an opportunity to warn people, you know, educate them, and bring them into the car business, knowing all the pitfalls that can go wrong. So it's been really good.
Yeah, Dave Bannister, been in the business for about 30 years. I have 5 dealerships, 4 in Southern Virginia, 1 in Maryland. And I may be the second oldest, maybe. I don't know if it's here. Oh, yeah. So, yeah. Congratulations on your position. Thank you. Role responsibility. I've sat on that side for all these years. I don't know. So, and you probably have the worst thing because everybody bumped you as they walked out. So, that's their fault.
I've already been there.
Yeah. So we'll take care of it. You didn't take that for me.
Then you beat you in this position.
You have a longer line. You're not gonna introduce yourself. Andrew Wiley, I own Consumers Auto Warehouse in Stanton, Virginia, used car dealer. We celebrated 24 years of business on Valentine's Day, ironically, or not ironically, I'm not sure.
Chip Lindsay, Lindsay Automotive, we have, 11 stores now, primarily, in Northern Virginia. We've been around since 1963. I'm a Naval Academy graduate. I'm a former Marine officer. My obligation after that, this with my dad. Right now, the Lindsay Automotive is owned by myself and my two brothers. I've been here before. I'm embarrassed to say this was 10 years ago. I put 3 kids through college since then. So this unfortunately is not nice.
Thank you for your information. Trevor Foley with Camp Hall Market Sales, F6. Virginia, 200 across the country. We dabble in a little bit of everything. So motorhomes, travel trailers, boats, name it, sell it. So happy to be here.
Alexis Barkley tablet, but please call me Lexi. The Charleston company is currently serving in the vice president role of the Sun to engage and I've been about 3 years. I'm glad to be here.
Welcome. And just for the board's benefit, I said here for like at least 2 sessions before I figured out all the people that are sitting back there. And I wonder if you guys could just, your name and what function you perform for the motivated dealer board for DMV in service of them or for this meeting in particular. You did that? Okay. Yeah. Now he asked. Okay. Want to start? We should keep it moving.
So, first of all, William Childress, I'm the executive director of the Motivated Dealer Board. Been here now for 8 years, 8 years as of February 9th, 2010. Prior to coming to the dealer board, I was with DMV for 15 years. My last position there was the director of Vehicle Service Administration. So a couple of people in the back wall here had the pleasure of working with me, or were proud to see me lead, whichever one they want to specify. Prior to that, I spent 9 years with the Department of Transportation, and prior to that, I spent 10 years in the Air Force.
Christian Parrish, from the Attorney General's office. I'm counsel to the board. Been in that role for now almost 10 years. Also represent several other leagues.
When you see Christian pop up, we generally have to stop talking because he's going to tell us we're either doing something wrong or we're doing a different way. Be quiet.
Good morning. I'm Alicia Moore. I'm the Deputy Director of Vehicle Services, and my role here is I oversee the online dealer program as well as dealer services, insurance monitoring, and complaint development. I am Kristen Gilbertson. I am the program manager for online programs as vehicles and vehicle services. I work very closely with them.
Like Bailey.
Ann Majors, I've been with the board since 2011, and I am the agency.
Yes, sir. Not true. Keep on talking, you're acting like you have.
I am the acting operations manager as well.
Much better.
Meg Nelson, I'm the field representative supervisor. I've been with the board since 1998. I've been in this capacity since 2015 as the supervisor.
So,
Joseph, you want to just say hi for everybody?
How's it going? I'm Joseph Tillar. I'm the IT manager for the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board. Been with the agency for about 8 months now. Yeah.
Obviously back there.
Administrative assistant to William and Jeff Walter.
and been on the board since
1995.
its inception.
And generally, so folks, I think all of you probably know, but we generally have representatives from VADA, so Ann and Ralston are here. And then Alvin from, the DIADA. Sometimes Gonzalo comes as well. Great, so now, we're done with the unconventional part, moving on, is there anyone, any public topics that anyone present would like to bring up? Seeing none, I'm going to move to our committee reports. The first committee up is the Dealer Practices Committee, chaired by, vice chaired by Andrew Wiley.
And Eddie Bannister, I know, I was just.
I'm sitting here reading this thing. Would you mind giving us the report out from the committee?
Mr. Commissioner, Dealer Practices had a meeting this morning, and we had a forum, we have 4 items come before the board.
The first item was Car Slots Incorporated and Blondie D from NEMA. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence and the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning Car Slots and Blondie from NEMA for alleged violations of Virginia Code Section 46.2-1529, 46.2-1533, and 46.2-1575, number 2. And whereas based on due consideration, the board believes the following actions should be taken against Car Slots and Blondie from NEMA. 1, accept the civil penalty of $1,000. 2, Car Slots shall be inspected by Motor Vehicle Dealer Board Field Representative within 90 days, and that inspection shall be satisfactory. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board mandates that Blondie from NEMA hereby be assessed a civil penalty of $1,000, and the Car Slots dealerships are satisfactory pass an inspection conducted by Motor Vehicle Dealer Board Field Representative on or before June 11, 2024. Therefore, be it further resolved by the board that failure to comply with the board's mandates by the required dates will result in the suspension of all licenses and certificates issued by the board until such time the Car Slots dealership and Blondie from NEMA successfully complies with the board's mandate.
Thank you, William. The board acts on a motion. Do I have a motion?
And it's his motion, please.
Oh, thank you. That's right, because he comes out of the committee. Yeah. Already motion. Do I have a second? All right, all those in favor, anyone here that wants to speak to it? Throw or on? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Number 2, Neo Classic Cars LLC and Devin B. Weisler. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence and the report of the formal fact-finding conference and prepared by the hearing officer concerning Neo Classic Cars and Devin Weisler for alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1529.1, 46.2-1539, and 46.2-1575, number 2. And whereas based on due consideration, the board believes that the following actions should be taken against Neo Classic Cars and Devin Weisler. 1, assess a civil penalty of $500. 2, issue a written warning for Virginia Code Section 46.2-1575, number 2. 3, Neo Classic Cars shall be inspected by Motor Vehicle Dealer Board Field Representative within 90 days, and that inspection shall be satisfactory. And 4, Devin Weisler shall successfully complete the 2-day dealer operator course. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board mandates that Devin Weisler hereby be assessed a civil penalty of $500 and issued a written warning regarding Section 46.2-1575, number 2. And the Neo Classic Cars dealership shall satisfactorily pass an inspection conducted by a Motor Vehicle Dealer Board Field Representative on or before June 11, 2024, and Devin Weisler shall successfully complete the dealer operator course by September 11, 2024. Therefore, be it further resolved by the board that failure to comply with the board's mandates by the required dates will result in the suspension of all licenses and certificates issued by the board until such time the Neo Classic Car dealership and Devin Weisler successfully comply with the board's mandates.
Excellent. Does anyone like to speak in favor of opposition? All right, the motion, is there a second? Second. Alexis got there first, for the record, and then all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
All right, next case. Ola Motors LLC and Ola Yinka Huawei. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence and the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning the Ola Motors and Ola Yinka Huawei for alleged violations of Virginia Code sections 46.2-1533, 46.2-1575, number 2. And whereas based on due consideration, the board believes that the following actions should be taken against Ola Motors and Ola Yinka Huawei. 1, accept a civil penalty of $1,500. 2, Ola Motors shall be inspected by a motor vehicle dealer board field representative within 90 days, and that inspection shall be satisfactory. And 3, Ola Yinka Huawei shall successfully complete the 2-day dealer operating course. Now therefore be it resolved that the board mandates that Ola Yinka Huawei hereby be assessed a civil penalty of $1,500, and the Ola Motors dealership shall satisfactorily pass an inspection conducted by a motor vehicle dealer board field representative on or before June 11th, 2024, and Ola Yinka Huawei shall successfully complete the dealer operator course by September 11th, 2024. Therefore, be it further resolved by the board that failure to comply with the board's mandates by the required dates will result in the suspension of all licenses and certificates issued by the board until such time the Ola Motors dealership and Ola Yinka Huawei successfully complies with the board's mandates.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak here in favor or opposition? Seeing none, can I have a second for the motion? Melissa, for the record, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Okay, the fourth one. Car Rooms LLC and Derek Washington. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence to report an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning Car Rooms and Derek Washington for alleged violations of Virginia Code sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1537, 46.2-1539, 46.2-1542B, 46.2-1548, 46.2-1550.1, and 46.2-1550.2. And whereas based on due consideration, the board believes that the following actions should be taken against Kyle Will and Derek Washington. 1, accept a civil penalty of $15,000, and 2, revoke all licenses, certificates, and qualifications issued by the board. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board mandates that Derek Washington hereby be assessed a civil penalty of $15,000, and the board has revoked all licenses and certificates and qualifications issued to Derek Washington.
Thank you. I want to make a comment on this prerogative, but thank you guys for, this was the case that I wanted to talk about, because I thought $900 penalty was ridiculous for this offense and the fact that it's been unresponsive to the entire investigation. So I fully support that, and this is one of those areas where printing these false tags and getting them out there in the market costs the commissioner of D&D in Texas a job. I like my job, as I just said. So it's not something that's acceptable. It kind of happens going forward, but we want to keep it tight. So thank you. Anyone other than yours truly that wants to speak in favor or opposition?
I have a question
Yes.
about, we were told that there was printing tags for other dealerships. What county would assign to that dealership?
My understanding was the committee was all part of 15,000. As far as the other 5. We'll talk about separately, so that you can.
Well, Tim brings up a great point. Now, if he was printing tags for another dealership that obviously had their ability to print tags taken away, or didn't have it, so I think that's something we should look into. And I think it's our priority to refer this over to DMV for further investigation.
I had a note you guys refer to law enforcement. So I absolutely, if we want to, I guess we'd have to do a separate investigation to issue a penalty to that other dealership. I would support us doing that if we want, but I first see what the law enforcement, how they want to do it. But this is definitely a yes, at least.
Alicia Moore, Deputy Director of Vehicle Services, Commissioner. I believe this case was already forwarded to us, and the reason why they were suspended, Barbara, if you want to comment, I believe their put on demand access was taken away. They already had a hearing, and the hearing officer upheld it. So for Griffin Motors, I believe was the other dealership.
Was that upholding the previous decision to not allow them to print the tags, or in a penalty for having somebody else illegally circumvent our suspension?
Suspending their access, suspending, their participation in the print demand program.
Shouldn't they also be assigned some sort of penalty?
Yeah, $50 a tag.
Right,
Technically.
that would be covered something separate if we would have that conversation, but, not trying to divvy in code, but in that particular section, we don't necessarily assign a civil penalty, we suspend their.
So the penalty that we would assign to them is a suspension.
Correct.
Griffin, do we have the authority to issue a penalty for getting tags illegally for somebody else? Like, I don't know if it's illegal. Is it illegal to get a tag from another dealership? I would assume so.
So I would defer to William from the standpoint of, I will tell you can't do it now at this meeting because this dealership has not been brought before the board of charge of anything. So now that you're aware of it, it's something that the Williams staff can look into, see if there's some sort of penalty under the code, like there's money, there's 11 or 15 of them under the code. So they can look into it, then they can charge them. And then as all these other cases today came before the board, the same would happen. They'd have their due process to come before the board and explain why they did it or not, and then the board issue a civil penalty, suspension, revoke license, all that.
And to Mr. Polanco's point there, this one is about Mr. Washington, not about the dealership that received the illegal tags. So we can look at them going forward to see what we can find. We will definitely investigate this. But we do know about at least.
And go ahead. I think you said mentioned they might be out of it.
Here we are. Yeah, but that's correct. Okay.
Okay. Griffin's out of business too? Or Washington's out?
No, Washington.
Yeah, but Washington printed tags for Griffin Motors. Griffin Motor Cars?
Yeah, but that's something we probably.
No,
He was just clarifying who was.
I want to clarify that we're empowering William to investigate that and bring them here and say, hey, why you get so different tag? I'm just not backing you up.
My other concern is who else are they getting to do it now?
What's that?
Who else are they getting to do it now?
When we go check them out, we'll find out.
No, but you're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if somebody was doing it, then we will find them.
I'm just saying, it's one of those things where 1 equals 2, we should just add.
They're gonna do something. So I would say, let our law enforcement look into what they're currently doing, the investigation there. You guys do an investigation into the receiving of the on demand flags for Washington.
How do you print tag for another dealer? Are the tags like this now? So 30-day tags are in Carver's name, he's just giving them to you, correct?
Yeah.
Well, he's turning around.
But the actual tag is in the originator's name, not in. I'm trying to learn how you do all this stuff on science.
Doing research, are you?
Yes, sir. What we heard was the potential of somebody's being sold online. Is that been referred to her?
All of this case, I can see, raise my attention, say I want all of that. Okay. I think I raised a really good
Thought
point.
of bring up.
Yeah, no, we have, we've had several investigations into this in different instances in the last 12 months of my tenure, so I think, I'll have to think all of it before I do this.
Having the largest fine that's been given by the state of Florida is $200,000. This September. We've seen over the years, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 fines right and left. During COVID, when dealers started to issue them tags to people they didn't sell cars to over and over and over again multiple times. A lot of it happened because the owner gave out the PIN number of employees. Those employees are not able to connect the system and tag besides them. That's been circumvented quite greatly recently. Yeah, and we don't see much of that happening anymore, but here's the tail end stuff that happened.
I'm just curious. I've never printed the second set of tags on it. I wouldn't even know how to do it. So when you do that, is it the same as doing the first set? All right, so when that happens, is it not red flag to somewhere? Not if it's an original. A lot of times you can do original, 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 original by just changing something, okay? So that's one way to search that. The other way is just second, that's a hot fun.
May I make a suggestion? Let the DLP speak to that. Okay. That's not
Yeah, no, what I can tell you what I know, but you're making me think I need to follow up with the request that's probably 6 months old now when this last up. For us, we are supposed to have put in or being put in something to identify that using a tool that we have that look at red flags. So like percentage of repeat, tags, so like the number of times the percentage set of tags, the number of originals versus number of sables, things like that. So I'll check up on where we are with that. That was on the backlog. It may already be implemented. But I'll check on that as well. That's a separate. Yeah, separate request.
I would at least like to share with the board what the practices are legally based on what I teach. the class. One set of temp tags. After that, it's titled dealt with taxes, tax registration is paid. There's no second set of temp tags. Okay, there's only a second set of temp tags being sold out of state. That's the only legal way they can do a second set of temporary tags. Now, the only problem with that is you're not protected under bankruptcy laws. So if you issue a second set of temporary tags, you have not registered the car and recorded the lien within 30 days of paying the taxes, the bankruptcy courts can file bankruptcy on the future car. So I would not let people in your staff or your homes do second set of temp tags even out of state. You could lose the whole thing and then find it back. And I've seen people lose $36,000 cars just like that. So make sure your staff's doing the registration process.
Some of these states.
I think you need to start right away. You know, and sure, you can't get it turned around right away, but you can also you can record a lien in the state of Virginia. Just record the lien, boom, you're done. You know, and then you're protected with the bankruptcy. Then if it takes you 60 days or 90 days out of state, at least you're protected with the bankruptcy cost.
Any further discussion on that one? Seeing none, I'll remind, it was a $15,000 fine and revocation of all, licenses and privileges, authorized by the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board. Is there a second for that? You did?
Second was the last.
Yeah, it was last. Okay, so all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Let's get rid of that. Concludes our items. Our next one is May. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Over to the licensing committee chat. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. We met today. We had a forum.
Okay, we had a meeting this morning, we do have a forum, and we have
We
two items.
We approved the summary.
Bring the summary. Two items on the.
Thank you. First one is for the Samuel H. DuPont sales applicant. Whereas the board's review and considered the facts and evidence and report on a formal fact-finding conference was prepared by the hearing officer concerning Samuel DuPont for alleged violations of Virginia Code Section 46.2-1575, number 13. Whereas based on due consideration, the board believes the following action shall be taken against Samuel DuPont. Allowed to apply for a salesperson's license. Now therefore be it resolved that the board mandates that Samuel DuPont is hereby allowed to apply for a salesperson's license.
All right, thank you. Anyone here from the public that want to speak on this? No, so good. Since you want to step up there, don't feel need if you spoke detailed in the committee to have to bring everything up, but would love to hear anything you have to say.
Good morning, Samuel DuPont. Just want to thank you guys again for all the consideration that you have put forth for this and for looking into this and for the continued process that I've gone through, and I appreciate every little detail you guys put into.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You'll be abstaining since he works for you, so Trevor, let the record reflect Trevor Foley abstain from the vote. I kind of figured when you can't be voted on your shirt, I mean, it's question out of my mouth, but, appreciate it. We always like the opportunity to give people a second chance when we can. So we our trust will be well placed. We have a second to the motion.
Second.
I will get it. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Yeah. You guys have any dealing thing for something? So we will move on.
You're welcome to go. You're welcome to go.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Like it, so your agenda, so thank you, appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, the next case was Kathy Strossmail, salesperson and dealer operator, from BK Motors. That case has been tabled to the May meeting. Ms. Strossmail had an issue this morning, to emails this morning, she had a babysitting issue, and she asked the board to defer the case until May. The board agreed, the committee agreed to do so, but they also said that if she doesn't come in May, they're going to have the case. So it's been tabled to the May meeting.
Yeah, I have more questions on this, but I will hold on. Just given the type of charges that were involved and her role of trust in the community. So,
All right, so we're gonna table that. Do we need a motion to do that?
This committee,
Already done. Perfect.
Is that everything?
next
Next
meeting.
meeting, May the 13th, 2024.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it gets more, you see, it, right? It gets more normal than what we do it here.
Never do that.
Yeah, no, I'm going to, ask, Chris from the upcoming committee report on.
Mr. Commissioner, we met this morning, we had a quorum, there was no public comment, we approved the meeting summary. And then we adjourned, next meeting would be the May 13th, 2023.
That's the roll, last time we were together, there's a rollout of a new, guideline, sales guidelines, or advertising guidelines.
yeah, that was the FTC pulled that for now, so it's nothing to worry about.
It's tabled for now.
Tabled for now.
I will say around. I'm back around, yeah. All right, thank you very much. Next, we'll go over to the Transaction Recovery Fund Committee. That'll see Chris.
That's Mason. Mr. Commissioner, we met this morning, we had a quorum to approve the meeting summary, there's no public comments. We had one case, that was approved under tab 7.
Christopher and Deborah Connolly versus Carl Legends and Rahula Abasi. Whereas pursuant to section 46.2-1527 of the Virginia Code, which is known as the Motor Vehicle Transaction Recovery Fund, the board has reviewed and considered claims for payments from the fund and the recommendation of the hearing officer on the claim. And whereas based on due consideration, the recommendation of the hearing officer, the board approves and acknowledges that the applicant's claim should be payable from the fund. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby approves and reaffirms the following claim payment amount subject to compliance by the claimant with statutory requirements. The claimants are Christopher and Deborah Connolly. The judgment amount was $35,342.75. But the form payment that the committee approved was $25,000.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak in favor or opposition at this point? All right, is there a second? I'll second. All right, Andrew. All right, so all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
My report, transaction covered company, and our next meeting, May 13th, 2024.
William, over to you for any old business.
Okay, don't have any old business. Oh no, you going down the list here?
Yeah.
All right, we got to talk about the juice sales.
Yeah, I just, you know, I'm not that quick. If it's not on the paper.
I got you. All right, so first thing the only thing I'm talking about for the most part would be the dealer portal. So for the past 3 meetings, I believe, we've been talking about the dealer portal, the fact that we have been in a standstill situation. Well, since the last board meeting, we have made significant progress. A lot has happened. I mean, things are moving, so things are happening right. So right now, the biggest thing we're working on now is that the vendor, the DMV IT staff, which is on the vehicle side for the commissioner here, and my IT resource back here, Joseph, and my team. We are, for the past, well, we're working on the communications piece now of this system to be able to communicate with DMV's microphones. In the meantime, the staff, as far as, my staff, have spent over 150 hours doing what we call, functional testing of the system. And in this process, they're going through the system, they'll test things, make sure things work, and what doesn't work, they'll take notes of or they'll write it up. Joseph back here, at that point, will take the write-up, submit a ticket to the vendor for things to be, repaired, to be fixed, or to be corrected. So that's been happening a lot in the last 2 months. We're getting to a point now where the system, for the most part, is getting to, probably almost completion in terms of programming. We still have some work to do. When I spoke to you earlier, I mentioned about communication between our system and DMV's mainframe. That part has to be programmed still, and when that gets tested, it'll be tested along with the DMV people who will make sure that they receive the data and that they can read the data once they receive it. That's still left to be done. And that's the last sign off I will have. Well, I have 3 sign offs left. One for UAT testing, the sign off for this thing I'm just mentioning about files being built and tested with DMV, and then the final thing with the system itself. So we're getting near the end in terms of system profile. So that's what we are doing. So things are moving quickly and fast, and things are good. I'm not going to give you a projected go live date because I don't give it to you until I know for certain that's what this building dates will actually happen. I don't want to say something and then tell you 2 months later that be back in 6 months. So as time comes, I'll let you know. When I give it to you, I'll probably do a little pushing on the other side to make sure that you're able to deploy until you deploy. But more than likely, when we do deploy the system, it's going to be a soft launch, which means I'm probably going to pick out a couple of dealerships around the state to work with us to test it out to make sure it's working first before we go full scale. I'd rather do it that way than correct the mistake or fix the thing and to put it out there and have a disaster. So that's what we're looking at. Yes.
Do you mind briefly just telling the new members of the board what the dealer portal is?
Yes. Thanks, sir. I appreciate the opportunity.
Briefly.
I'm going there twice.
Yeah.
Right now, I would be pretty well, you all forget to us your package, whether, well, this is the biggest bang for the bucks on the renewal side. We send the renewals to you in the mail right now, you send them back to us through the mail. This process, we're looking at eliminating US mail for the most part. This will give you the ability to do your renewals online and for us to receive it the same day. And in some cases, potentially you might get it back the same day, which removes a 15 to 25 day turnaround time that normally takes. This system is something we designed, hopefully that everybody will use, that will save you some money in terms of the US mail, save some time in terms of turnaround time, and save the big dealerships money from put things in overnight mail. So if your money savings for you, number one, your time savings for you, number two. And in the states that do have this electronic process in place, they have a 90+% participation rate with the dealerships in the counties. And the last benefit would be if something, God forbid, like COVID happens again, where we were paralyzed for two or 3 months from doing anything, this system gives the ability to work away from the office. Business can still continue. Thank you very much. Will you want to move to new business? Yes, we do. Of course. Yeah, you do that.
Oh, we always have old business or?
Yeah.
New business?
All right. Yeah.
So, Ann or Ralston? Yeah, let's start with the VA.
Legislative updates.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll talk about 2 things that kind of occurred during the General Assembly that addressed the Hang Auto Dealers Association. The first was regarding jump fees. There was a bill on the Senate side, Senate Bill 388. Want me to? Thank you. I'll stay back. The first bill was related to junk fees on the Senate side.
what we're kind of hearing across the board from a variety of different policymakers is related to advertising in the retail sector. There's a significant push from members of the General Assembly on the House and the Senate side to address some of the concerns about junk fees. And I think some of you all have heard it about and related to ticket pricing online. The House version carried by Dan Helmer actually addressed specifically ticket pricing online. Senate went to a different pathway and they tried to address it across the landscape in the retail sector. Their version was addressing everybody in the retail sector. House side was just on the electronic ticket pricing. Both bills passed each chamber and then they came to a conference. The bill ultimately was dead because they couldn't agree on the format. But what I will tell you is they are very active in trying to address this statutorily. So I think it's very important from an advertising standpoint and the things that you all do from a disclosure side to start evaluating what you're doing and making sure that you are responsive to the laws and the regs in Virginia. So just be mindful of that. That bill will probably come back next year. We worked heavily to try to address dealers in Virginia. In the Senate version, we were able to get an exclusion there, but it is something that I think you all need to be mindful of moving forward. The second issue is related to our franchise bill. We had it addressing buy-sell transactions. We've had a significant problem here in Virginia with manufacturers opposing the sale or the transfer of dealerships to other dealers or auto groups. This came out for a particular reason based on a specific instance that occurred here in Virginia. We really wanted to make sure that the timeline was very reasonable. It's supposed to be 60 days in the statute. We've seen manufacturers manipulate that statute. We've also seen them use a specific word that is in the statute called qualifications. And they've used that to basically cherry pick statistics and then deny a dealer to purchase another location. So we addressed that in our two versions, which are identical on the Senate and House side. Both have passed the General Assembly unanimously. We'll have head the governor for his signature, hopefully. So those were our two really main concerns this year, but I do want to make sure you all are mindful of junk fees. That's been talked about in the newspapers across the board, and I think that's something that's being moved in California and Pennsylvania as well. So I think you all need to be mindful of that. Any questions or thoughts? Thank you.
Thank you all. I'll speak to us on legislative updates for the independent.
Hello, Alvin Melendez, BIABA Executive Director. Good morning. Very nice to meet you. Nice to see you. Say hello to Tim Robinson. I have no updates on legislation, but I do want to speak a little bit to the temporary tag on demand, if you don't mind. I had the privilege of having a dealer friend of mine call me about fines that he was facing from the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board. After looking at his case, I told him you want to settle this and pay it, which came out to 13,000 and change, pay his fines. But I want to let the board know and the people listening, what's the due process that happens after that? It comes out of the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board, DMV then looks at it. So he is showing that he was facing 9 misdemeanor charges from DMV. It was 300 and some temporary tags. Almost half of them were transport tag violations as well. And he said, I did. I did that. I lose a lot of second chance financing, and a lot of these customers give enough of the lien holders going to be. By the time it gets approved, I give them another one, because then, this lien holder don't approve it because they can't, the pay stub didn't match up. I have to find a different lien holder. So needless to say, he violated to make the customers right, or he was thinking he was doing something good for the consumer. He was putting his business in jeopardy and his livelihood. Been in business 20+ years, clean record. I go to court, and he's facing 9 misdemeanors. Talking to the prosecutor for DMV, he says, Mr. Melendez, you do understand that each misdemeanor is a class 1 misdemeanor. It is up to 1 year in jail. We're facing 9 years. I said, excuse me. I said, give me a second. You need to go attorney. This is serious. you know, and I just want to let the people that are here and people that are listening, how serious this is. The fact that they come from the motor vehicle to the board and pay their fines or making restitution doesn't mean that DMV is not going to enforce the law on them. It doesn't mean they're off the hook, you know? Here he put his business of 20 years, all the employees, all trying to, what he thought he was doing right. But he knew he was not doing right. He knew he was bending the law. I mean, he said to me, he said, Alan, I thought, you know, I was doing right, but I knew I was doing wrong. I know I cannot issue some part of tax. I mean, this gentleman came out of court and started crying on his shoulder. I mean, this is a 60-some-year-old man being just 20 plus years. So what do I do now? I said, well, get counsel, you know, we'll fight it together. I'll try to help you what I can. But, you know, it wasn't intention of selling tax. It was the intention of doing things. Again, you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law. You're going to pay a price. And this could be losing your business. So I just wanted to bring it out there that the DMV will enforce it. So, any questions? That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Alan. Yeah, we do have, we have 100 sworn, well, 80 sworn positions. I always run up. Barbara heads our investigation unit, and I sign off on every consultation with Commonwealth Attorney and magistrate that we do. And we do a couple every day, roughly, or every other day. So, and we can prosecute these things. Obviously, there's a process in place to find a just solutions, but that's outside of my things. That's for Christian and the lawyers, of course, they go. I just charge them. All right, thank you very much. So on that, I think we can now move to new business. You go? You don't have any? I have a couple. But before I say mine, any new business from the floor that folks want to bring up? All right, just a couple things. A couple are just notes for you guys to be aware of. One is a request. I'll start with the notes. DMV is setting up a steering committee on e-titling. We're going to ask participation from the VADA and VIADA be on that, as well as some of the online dealers. We're looking at taking the next step now and setting out a multi-year path to sort of get us completely out of having you guys have to send titles in. It's complex. I've read the 160-page federal government guidelines, but what I will simply say is that we never want to have a situation where we have an electronic title and paper title at the same time. It's kind of like has anyone ever deposited a check to their bank with their phone? And you have to write on it something that says like deposited only for online, but you don't want a physical check and an electronic check at the same time. It leads to fraud. So that's a very simple version of what we're trying to do. And we want a seamless process. We want a simple system. We don't want a system where people can take advantage of it. Because one thing I have learned in this job, the minute you put something out there, people are trying to figure out how to defraud it. It's human nature. So we can't let that happen, but we're going to set up a steering committee and start working on that. I expect it to be a tremendous process. Second one, you guys and your dealers, just to let the dealer board know, I guess, is we're going to be looking at we have a cooperative agreement that you all or all the dealers use to send those titles and things back to us. There's not enough standardization. Some people are using the lowest cost option, which we pay for all of it. So some are using the lowest cost option, which is UPS ground. It gets here in about 2 days. Some people are using the premium. We have people who send it next day, Saturday, early delivery, and it costs $75 to send it over here. So we're going to be putting some restrictions out there and some guidelines. Not everybody's like that, but if you do care about it, it's simply because there's money in the mills, and we think we could probably shave 40% of our payment costs out just by saying, hey, UPS ground is more than sufficient. The one request I was talking to RJ, so I'm sorry he's not here. I was wondering, William, if we could do it. I think I mentioned this briefly in a parking lot, but an informal study on the focus of our investigations. RJ mentioned to me, and it did resonate with me, that we're spending a lot of time on hours of operation. That's one of the bigger reasons people come in. Are there other things that maybe we could be spending our time on that would be more valuable? It's really a discussion and probably an informed one. I'd like to ask the board when we deal with to look into that. Maybe we have some offline conversations about the implications if we switch the focus of where we spend some of our investigative time.
Do you mean in the sense of better ways to do that, because that's no statutory requirement? You can make a potential statutory change.
Up to and including a potential statutory change in my mind. I think it's worth an honest discussion about whether enforcing hours of operation and the lots of calories that are expended on that by this board, by investigators driving around, repeatedly going to people, or you hear, whether that's something we do, but maybe we do it in a more efficient way, like you said, or maybe it's something RJ and I were talking about, maybe it's something we just don't do. Right, but that would be something that we need to talk about the implications of and all of that. I'd like to request some time be spent honestly, maybe have an informed discussion of it at some previous board. That was proposal. Okay. I think we'll have to talk more about it, but I mean, anyone want to comment on that? Because,
I'd love to comment on that.
You would.
Well, not because I'm just like to talk, I really don't.
So would you,
I got information. The dealers in the state of Virginia that are selling cars for the living, that are making a living selling cars, okay? They're gonna maintain their hours, they're gonna be there because consumers come there and they want to sell cars when they get there. The folks that don't want to maintain their hours are folks that are doing all kinds of other shady stuff on the planet. And if they don't maintain their hours, they're causing problems for us also. So part of the policing of the hours is to make sure they're conforming and complying with the regulations that we have in place. So to lighten up on that, they're all like, yeah, we don't have to show up. But, we've raised the fine to $750 for the second time you get caught not maintaining your hours. I mean, I think enforcement is necessary. I think we could increase the fines. I think $750 for the second time pretty heavy. The first time is a warning. It's like, hey, maybe you didn't get it the first time. We're going to give you one warning, check, and then they start to hammer from there. I think in the normal routine of the field representatives running their routes, okay, they're finding people are closed during the inspection process. So we're actually doing the inspection. We're not randomly just running out to see if they're open. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I think we need it. I mean, we talk about it, but I think it's something that's necessary.
Is there one of the talks we had on this? I don't know if this is the right form. That's why I was submitting one that's all about fines. Now that I see things that make I don't want to stand up there and get in front of the podium again. So let's take it to a different forum, but I have some thoughts on how we might, maybe there are ways that we could do it slightly differently. But I think it's worth the discussion. If we come out with, no change, that's okay. Do you know when the last time it is did any of our enforcement policies or anything like that?
Well, and I think that's a key for me and my staff. When this code says you must do something, that's what you do. Yeah, there's no discussion. You have to do it.
Right.
So we've never really looked at that. And that's why I'm saying, because if you change that, you got to change the code too. Right. Because the code requires them to do at least 10 of those hours between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. At least 10. And like you guys, when we get somebody who came in and said, I'm asking the same question, what are you doing? You don't have to do 20 hours a week. Well, and so the people who are not doing it, they're not working somehow. So, and when it was put in code back in 1995, when I was putting code, I went through a process was then, they intend to do it. And one of the things I guess we can do is while we're doing this, we can survey all these states to see if we can help. But I think we don't feel the same problem, but we might have the same problem. So maybe something like we can think about.
I would love that to be part of the suggestion. One thing I want to point out, when they're not at their dealerships helping customers with their problems, they're calling William and hammering down his phone ring off the hook. He doesn't have enough staff to answer the phone calls coming right now. So if they're not handling their problems, William has to handle their problems. So it overloads that agency, if that makes sense. So that's why they're handling down. Be there, answer your phone, settle your problems.
Yeah. And I'm not advocating that we give people free rein on that. I do have a couple other thoughts on it that I think are best handled offline. And then I think I really like the idea of asking other states if I can be helpful there and doing a DMV survey or something. I have to finish you if you went right now. Okay.
You'd like some suggestions on by email to the board?
Yeah, that would be good. If you have additional
There's
suggestions.
Yeah. Yep. Now you have the number of memberships, so you have to.
I will do that, we'll initiate this. AMBA is our national body of all the DMVs, so we send it to how are other states doing this. We can get that cost helpful.
Okay, and I do want to add one thing, that legislation wise, there was legislation that has passed both chambers unanimously. That was put in place, I guess, dealing with 1528, I believe, 1528, so 1528. Well, anyway, it gives the board the ability to assess, a fee, inspection fee against dealership for a violation of the code. And we are going to bring back recommendations to the body in terms of how to use this. But I will tell you now that the initial thought is, when we go out and do our jobs normally, that inspection visit will not be charged. That's what we're supposed to do. This is for those people who have to go back to for whatever reason. If they're not there, we have to go back to them. This is people apply there. We'll have to go back to it. The board mandates inspection for people there also. But that fee though is something that the board will set, not the staff. Y'all, the board will have to go to set what that fee is. Which is better than what we're doing right now. So, but that's something we put in place to assist, but at the same time, I always gonna say that's regressive. All it's doing is punishing people who are already in the phone. So.
All right, so that concludes new business. Our next scheduled board meeting will be May 13th, 2024. William, over to you if there's any additional on the director's report decisions.
Yes, I have a very brief report and a reminder of the transaction recovery fund will meet after to address the last part of the charges by the commissioner back in September. But my briefing today will be very brief. First of all, I'd like to say thank you and welcome to the new members. It's great to see you guys. I hope you get time to get to know you. And so far, you have been very vocal in your first meeting. Today, when we were questioning the sales person applicant about his background in terms of qualifications for the sales license, this body has more questions than one person than they've asked anybody else in my 8 years here. So, and that wasn't even a major issue. So I feel sorry in the future for those guys. So that's what you're here for. The whole process there is that he's gonna be your peer. That's what say. Thank you for that. So, what you've done, look forward to the future. I do have knowledge. I don't know who. I was not given any specific. I was just told that more changes are coming to the board. So more people will probably be placed, maybe 1 or 2 at the most. But I have gotten word as of last week that there was going to maybe 2 more replacements for the board members as well. Again, I don't know what areas they're looking at or who they're looking at. The board's coming. With that said, there's going to be shuffling of committee assignments and leadership. For the most part, I think the leadership is in place. For right now, the rest of the leadership is taken off the board. So I want them to you that. So I know we're putting them. We'll take care of it now. So that's why we have a lot of people in positions now. But the guys today who did the first time chairing the meeting on the committee, that's what they're about. It's all due to you. So come easy as time goes on. Good job. It's behind you now. You know, getting experience and get better each time. So I appreciate you doing it on such short notice. Thank you, Jeff. Short notice. Appreciate it. Okay, in terms of the dealer board itself, there's a lot going on right now, but that's the same case for every. During the General Assembly time of the year, between General Assembly, dealing with legislators, dealing with Secretary of Transportation, his staff, and I'm not gonna say short notices that the commission can about, no notice, probably a good word. But between that and then trying to do your normal job and then some for a board meeting, and then on top of that, we have system automation stuff taking place, and then on top of that, we're trying to fill a position with vacant, if they get a position. For everybody, reminder for the new people, but the operations manager is very going with the dealer board has been vacated technically since November 7th, 2023. The incumbent at the time chose to retire, and he chose to take leave instead of leaving immediately. So his retirement ended on February 1st. So from November 7th to February 1st, he was getting paid by sitting at home in his pre-retirement mode. So yeah, In that time period, we were not allowed to hire because you cannot have two people in the same position for the most part. And number two, because we are a smaller agency that's only relying upon the funds we get from the licenses that you purchase and the certificates, we don't have the budget necessary to afford to do. So, but this position was split out amongst people on the staff, rolled out, and they've done a great job in the meantime, since he's been gone. With that said, we have received, we did advertise positions up on the board. We advertised it in January. We had interviews, late February, and we have now down to the, final part of the process. We did receive over 35 applications for the position. The applications came from, as far as Southeast Georgia and all of Virginia, for the position.
Yeah.
We did offer 11 interviews, of which 10 were accepted. But the person who backed out because the payment was too low for him, which was fine. But he did address the vow, so he did have to 10 people that were now in the final process, so that's fine, the process. So the next board meeting, and before then, we probably do an announcement. Before the next board meeting, so we have a person in place, should that person accept the, offer and position of the month. So if you have any questions about, the person, new board members, or about, the person, position that we advertise. Okay, well, that said, sir, that concludes my report.
Just want to echo Williams, welcome to our, new board members, look forward to working with you. If you hang out for a minute, I'll go grab my card so you guys have a. That, the board will now stand in adjournment. Thank you.
You're on the transaction recovery fund meeting, how long will we wait? We'll get right to it.
No, we weren't given time. We'll get started. About 15 minutes.
15 minutes, we'll meet back funds. We've been tasked with looking at the $25,000 maximum claim a single person can make on the transaction recovery fund, and if that's enough or not. If you were not here before, if you have any questions, we're more glad to bring you up to speed. Right now, the discussion today, Mike is going to help us with this here. Is $25,000 enough, or do we need to raise that number? So with that being said, Micah, you can come up and let us know what you prepared for.
I can say in front of that, sorry. So what you have in front of you is, all of the numbers from the part of the last 10 years. I did about payment date. And all the times, first notifies of the claim. Year two, the case that y'all heard this morning is actually brought to us in 2019, so I use the payment date as a better, I guess, range for it. So since 2014, one has paid out a total of $818,670.83, for an average claim payment of $17,418, representative of 47 claims made against the fund. The fund, I guess you could say, doesn't cover as much as it would appear, and total number of judgments has actually been over $2.7 billion in that 10-year period. We've only paid out $800,000. There is obviously a huge difference in the amount of claims that have been on average between just representing themselves per se. We had 13 claims. That's my apologies. I got 13 claims for a total payment of $40,075 on average $10,829. Of course, that average payment goes up $19,937 with an attorney. Obviously, their costs are going to drive up some of that payment. And then cost on average is $453. Cost when you go to court. If the attorney gets professional or anything, they can be included in, so it's not the actual court fee. So a lot of times, the largest number of claims is obviously the fraud / VCPA group 21. But you can see that there were other ones where they just had other, I guess, charges that were added to it, or they didn't get title, or, yeah, usually they didn't get title, or the dealer didn't have the title, but they would also be appraisal and stuff. Some of this information, data that was in the spreadsheet was before me, but I tried to clean it up, and try to bucket things into different things. Obviously, the attorney fees is the biggest thing. And in total, $546,735.65. Total in attorney fees, that's spread over 47 claims. So, I guess if y'all wanted to know exactly, I mean, my recommendation is, I don't see the need in increasing it, because there's gonna be situations like this one where we had $29,000 or $1,400. I think it would increase. I don't know the perfect fix, but I think it would increase our attorney payout. We're just spending more time. If we had. But I'm not sure either of that. It's just, I don't see it. Just given the average one payout of $17,400. It's roughly $7,500 a month. Not sure. This also doesn't account for any feared claims from forced things about the courts. Your settlement that we had to do before me, but maybe came out of the phone payment and that. Y'all have any questions?
What's BCPA?
BCPA is the Virginia Consumer Protection Act, and it encompasses a lot of other Virginia acts. But the first line of the Virginia Consumer Protection Act says inclusion. So you get a judgment for any breaches.
I don't know if any of y'all knew it or not, but car dealers cheated by other car dealers. Also,
I don't see it. The person who's collecting that lady out in Manchester right now, he could probably got judged with this one, maybe like expensive. Everybody, we don't advertise it because, quite frankly, there may not be enough money to cover all that stuff. But that's something to be done too.
And there's other things in place to protect the bond. The 3-year bonding requirement, if it's only made against the bond, it's started over. So it keeps them bonded that extra time. I guess the assertion was that they can go 3 years without defrauding anybody, and the profit pretty good to go. But we have had dealers have to be reset because they thought they were clear. The case got hung up in court or something, but they got a judgment, and your bonding period covers all the transactions. So if it takes somebody 2 years to get a judgment, get that bond for a year, I'm going to notify you that you get the requirement of having a bond without a public bid against it. And start over. So there are some things in place to help take some of the liability off the bond.
what's the minimum bond?
So the minimum maximum payout is 25,000, and the bonds for 50,000. Yeah.
And Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you don't hear from us is about the number of claims against the bond.
Yeah, that's something that's not forced forward. I normally, the bonding company would let me know we're still in business. Obviously, I'll let them take kind of bond. I give them 10 days to reset the bond. Because you're required to carry a $50,000 bond, the payment made out of that bond no longer $50,000. You have to keep it at 50,000. So, and normally if a bond pays out, the bonding company's going to cancel. They say claims been made, they cancel you, and you have to get another one if you want to see.
So we don't have those numbers, how many cases go against the insurance company?
I could go back and count them up. I follow them away and keep it for about a 5-year period.
Is it a lot? Is it a little?
It is considerable. I would say the amount of legal action, I look forward to the ones that get through for the bond company. These are on me, so I would say.
How about 50 refer from the bond ballpark?
Recently, it feels like it's about a 50-50 split.
Okay.
Either they're gonna be a fund plan.
So the bond is working on the offset in our payout.
Absolutely. And sometimes when I get notification of a lawsuit, it might be so close to the end of their bonding period that I can't tell if they did the purchase before they're, while they were bonded or after. So sometimes I'm not aware on that, just acknowledging claim bond. Because any claim that are referred to the bond will possibly come back to the fund because the bond may be exhausted or could have multiple claims pending against it. And then they would have to figure out how to pay those out and then notify whoever wants to be on.
The bond stops after 3 years.
It does, but it covers all transactions during that 3-year period.
Right. And then during those 3 years, is it a total of $50,000 or per incident?
It's a total of 50,000. It's $25,000 per.
Well, Mr. David, also, key thing there is that they have a claim against their bond, the bond is on total.
Yeah.
Now, is that as far as, this is before any court action, this is just as far as if someone sues, or is it after the court action?
They have to have a judgment.
They have to be, okay.
Yeah, but most attorneys, they're supposed to notify us of any possible claims against the fund in 15.7.4, in case we need to intervene. So and they'll notify us, they should notify us, claim paid and 30-day notice to cancel. We recently did have a claim where the bonding company sent out a letter saying it was canceled, but it wasn't. But we never received it, and they ended up covering the claim because they didn't meet the requirement of the cancellation. So we started that. I think right now it's very sound. Some of the, like the title stuff, a lot of times they're just trying to get their down payment back. They're not going for, damages to the vehicle or anything that reparatively may have had done to do to get the vehicle working. Some people, they go and they pay to register the vehicle at the dealer and then find out the dealer didn't do it, so they go and register it themselves. They're allowed to come back on for that too.
And the amount always been 20,000?
It was 20,000 up until 2011. In 2012, they changed it.
Well, I agree with you. You raised the amount and then probably more action. There's only a few that do the same, but that's.
Right. And the case today was a good example of the attorney having to go back to court. It seemed like every other law. He's got to prepare, and that's 2 hours of preparation so that he will professional in the courtroom, and then he's got to charge for the court time, things like that. So sometimes these dealers pushing the arbitration thing and doing that, and ultimately just the dealer, those attorney fees are going to keep going. As long as you're making it work.
All the problems that they didn't settle the problem.
We do sometimes reach out to the dealers and ask them, hey, what are you gonna do with this? Like, what's going on? Just so we have some kind of idea, and then obviously encourage them on being to try to sort this out. The consequences could be life. So
You make it crystal clear that they don't try to mitigate it for the customer and they get hit. The fund's gonna pay and then they have to repay the fund.
right, exactly. Yeah, and if they don't, and then we don't be paying fights either. So $25,000, but some of these dealers don't either. So something they need to think about. That's really my thing is just try to fix it, get it fixed as soon as you can. As soon as you're aware of it, with some dealers, I guess they hide from it and cause issues. No, a lot of times if I get any kind of notice of a lawsuit against a franchise dealer in the back of my head, I know that probably going to be settled outside of court. There was one franchise I know that we paid out on, but it was all due to like them not paying registration fees, things like that on. It was right before they closed. So instead of registering the vehicles, then we got a bunch of little claims for like $3 or $4. That was farther.
Most dealers who are many sides will settle their problems. It's usually smaller dealers who are working literally paycheck to paycheck. I'm not doing this, take that. Like, you don't want to pay.
Well,
Mr. Bayford, we're speaking of particular subjects. When we get wind of somebody having issues like that, especially with, well, either way, we'll contact the association. You know, maybe they can come to work with the game too. Since I've been here, I've not had to do that with franchise side, but I've had to do it with the side.
You might spend a minute with the youth bar people on this issue. Because it's crazy. Alvin has been, and I'm saying my perspective, that's your work. He has spent hours and hours and hours helping mitigate these type of things, transaction settlement, and very successfully. And every once in a while, we get a deal like, look, no more than I tell, like, we're not gonna do anything. And Alvin and I sit back and we look at the $180,000 lawsuit, I'm like, oh, tried to warn me, listen to us, you know? And when that happens, it's like, you know what? You gotta get what you get. You know, at that point there, you didn't listen to people that can help steer away from.
Do you cover this in your class?
It's a lot. I bet you for, on 2-day class, I bet you I bring up the attorneys and the amount of money they go after and those things. I bet you I bring it up 15 times. And so, yeah, between the lawyers, the handcuffs, the lawmakers, these people leave my class. Most of them are wondering, do I really want to be in this? That's the way I want them to leave. Kind of like scared straight, you know? So it's made a difference, and I'm excited to say it. Well, I think we know Renegade used car dealers has dropped substantially as a result of all this. This is the exact right thing to happen. I would say, I'm going to give Alvin credit on this, running a solid state independent dealer association for guide the dealers. So, and you know, when that lawyer call comes in, don't run out there and go hire another lawyer. Call us. Okay, what's the situation? What do we have to do to work together so that we can get solved or what? Alvin, go ahead.
Your question, we're in touch with the motor vehicle board. In many cases, when the board feels that the BIADA might help the case, William reaches to me and he tells me what he can about what's going on, and then I'll go to which students there and try to help. Some occasions, even the consumer has been to my office, and we have been able to work settlements with Carlos and myself and the dealer. And we do deals, I would say, 4 or 5 times a week. So it's quite often that we're dealing with litigation in cases like this. But we work in connection with the motor board in many of these cases that they feel that the ones that they feel that we can help, they reach out to us. So, you know, William is already after them.
Mike, a great job on this. And another thing that we see a lot of is state inspection. We know what the law is, but in a courtroom, the attorney can argue that the dealer shouldn't have the experience to realize that it shouldn't pass. And sometimes the argument can be, my dad was a state inspector for 40 years. So I know what can and can't pass the state inspection. But if you don't have somebody that can legally argue the dealer code and say, we're just required to get the vehicle inspected, the dealer can be ignorant as to whether it should pass or not. And I mean, I know they don't want to argue that, but if you don't know if the vehicle can pass inspection, then that's your defense for that, because we see a lot of that where they just loop in the dealer along with the inspector, and they just consider them the defendant. And the going thing is that they have some kind of agreement. I'll pass the inspection. So we have a whole section on that video. Right. Yeah. And so I mean, just encourage these guys to go, you know, reputable inspections. Yeah, exactly. And if you notice the guy's not lifting the vehicle off the ground, that should be the first red flag. We also tell them make sure they have a torque wrench, know how to use it. Yes. Well, Mike, a great job. Any questions for Mike at all? I agree with 25 grand. Increase that now. That does not fit. All right. Any questions for Mike? Anybody? No? Okay. William?
before you close out then. Okay, so with that said, we were tasked to come together to talk about the potential increase of recovery fund beyond $25,000, which we did today. Started the last meeting, through today. And we also looked at, making changes to other code sections, which in the first meeting, we decided not to at this time. So for the next board meeting in May, on the agenda, you will report out this committee extra work findings. A quick summary, and we'll wrap them up to speak to. So for everybody, okay, everybody on the same page. Can we put it out there?
Is everybody okay with $25,000 remaining the same? You know, right, it's the whole committee. Anybody opposed? Nobody opposed.
So I want to thank you all for standing here a little later for 2 times. To those who've done, who did it, appreciate your input and participation. And as we go forward, we'll try to get these committee meetings to be a little bit more friendly, user-friendly in terms of maybe not as many members. So when the commissioner made the assignment, he wasn't aware that more than a couple people together constitutes a meeting, and therefore must be public, must be live streamed, all of this stuff. So going forward, we have to. So
Yeah, one question on the, like, onboarding, manager, asked about people who put them through 2 or 3 weeks training, depending on what, and the approval, for the background check done with us right away. And if they don't have a license within 30 days, it has to be done again. Is there any way to extend that, or it's easy, or?
come across yourself, everybody.
Yeah, right, so you don't have to get 2 background checks. So it's a 30 days, yeah. Oh, I know.
So you're getting the background check done as soon as you.
Well, we don't want someone that's gonna.
No, I said. So you go again, and then you get background check back, you get it to us.
If it's after 30 days, we know we have to get another one. I'm saying if you got one original and it's good, so, and
I don't know that.
It is a requirement, but one easy fix is that you don't send the MVDB 61 until 3 weeks. Until you've decided to, do you get what I'm saying? So in other words, when we receive the 61, as long as that, background check is within that 30 days of us receiving the application, we're good. So let's, for example, I receive an application today dated for your MVDB 61 was dated last Friday.
Right.
But the background check was done 3 weeks ago. That's okay because we received the application within that 30-day period.
great idea. Because all we want to make sure is they're not
Yeah, you don't want
harmful to anybody. So, but for your purpose, that'll
It may
solve.
be just a slight process change in your.
Yeah,
HR.
perfect.
That's all.
Perfect idea.
But for you to understand also though, when you submit to us, our time frame is now reduced to time to turn it back around. So it won't take a long.
Right. Still gives us no deal.
The good news is we're in great shape, right? Any other questions? All right, do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, thank you, appreciate your time and,
Meet us in Gerald, we'll see everybody back here on May the 13th, right?
yeah, we want to. All right, so.
Take care.